Hey everybody, this is WireDogSec back with another video for you guys. Before we get into it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment below your thoughts and opinions. Helps out the channel, helps get the good word out there, etc., all that good stuff. All right, this room is going to be ICE, as you can see there on TryHackMe. This is also a free room. This is a step up from the blue room that we took a look at the other day. Now, what does this say? ICE, deploy and hack into a Windows machine exploiting a very poorly secured media server. And let's take a look at task one here, connect to TryHackMe's network. Please note that this machine does not respond to ping. It may take a few minutes to boot up. That's the usual. This virtual machine used in this room can be downloaded for offline usage, and there's the link for that there. The sequel to this room is Blaster. We'll probably take a look at this one as well after we finish this room. And task one just basically goes over how to connect to this particular box, like VPN and such, but I'm going to use the attack box on TryHackMe. That is available if you have a subscription, which I highly recommend you guys get. Let's see here, task number 2. I'm going to be using Nmap again, deploy the machine. It's going to take up to a few minutes to start, launch a scan against the target machine. Recommend to use the send scan, scan all ports. The scan command will be provided as a hint. Once the scan completes, we'll see a number of interesting ports. As you might have guessed, the firewall has been disabled, yada, yada, yada. What service did Nmap identify as running on port 8000? What does Nmap identify as the host name of the machine? All right, let's go ahead and do that. Jumping into task number 2 here, Recon. And this is where we're going to use Nmap. I went ahead and ran my Nmap scan. It took a few minutes to complete, but let's see what we have here. Did Nmap, then a dash SS is the send scan, and then dash A is aggressive, and then this right here is going to scan all the ports, and then I only want to see the open ports, and then there's the target box, and then the output's going to be in this ice.nmap scan. So we can review that later if we need to. Okay, taking a look at these open ports here, 135, 139, 445 is opening, interesting. It's S and B. Let's take a look down here. Port 3389 is the terminal service, which is RDP, and that's going to be the answer to this one right here. And it says, what service did Nmap identify as running on port 8000? And what do we have here? IceCast streaming media server. And it only wants us to get this piece right here, IceCast. So that's going to be the answer to that one. What does Nmap identify as the host name of the machine? All caps for the answer. And if we scroll down a little bit, we will see that information here. It's going to be right here, service info host, dark-pc. Now be sure to go through and take a look at the rest of this scanning information, maybe some information that you can utilize later on when breaking into this machine and such. And that's good practice as well. I mean, if you run a scan on a target box, you're going to try to collect as much information as you can so you can coordinate your attacks towards that specific service, protocol, vulnerability, what have you. All right, let's move on to task number 3. Move on to task number 3, gain access. Looks like we're going to be getting into some exciting stuff here. Exploit the target vulnerable service to gain a foothold. Now that we've identified some interesting services running on our target machine, let's do a little bit of research into one of the weirder services identified, IceCast. IceCast, or well, at least this version running on our target, is heavily flawed and has a high level vulnerability with a score of 7.5 or 7.4, depending on where you view it. What type of vulnerability is it? Use cvdetails.com for this question and the next. All right, so we're going to take a look at our scans. Information here from Nmap doesn't tell you much information about the version that is running. So we'll have to do some digging around on IceCast on that website that it mentioned there. And that's exactly what I did. I just basically went and searched IceCast and scrolling through and looking for a related vulnerability to the question, and probably going to be this one here. So I open that up and bam, there you go. CVSS score is 7.5. So that's going to be the answer to that one, CVE 2004-1561. And scrolling down here in the questions, now you found the vulnerability, let's find our exploit. For this section of the room, we'll use Metasploit module. Oh, sorry, I missed one here. Execute code overflow is going to be the answer to this one here, vulnerability type. All right, now going back here, we're going to go into Metasploit and find the module related to this particular vulnerability, and we're going to do some configuration inside of there. So let's go ahead and do that, which I have already done. And on another note, if you need to search for a particular vulnerability to something, you can use search exploit and then, name of the particular service or product that you're trying to exploit. And I'll pull up some information here. As you can see, it pulled up some items here for a 2.0.1 version of it, remote code execution. So maybe we'll have to utilize this later on for some type of manual exploitation. And I already had the Metasploit stuff running. All right, in order to start Metasploit, you're just going to use MSF console, and it's going to do its thing here and start up and all that. And inside of Metasploit, you're going to use search and then Icecast so you can find the modules related to that. And it's going to be this particular module here, this exploit Windows HTTP Icecast underscore header overwrite, and rank is going to be great. So it's going to have a high rate of success. Scrolling down here, we're going to use 0 to use this particular module. And as you're going through, you're going to have to set up some configuration settings, and which one is missing is going to be rhost, which is going to be the answer to that question there. And of course, you're going to use the module name for this answer to this question here. And see here, scrolling down, and exactly what I'm going to do, I'm going to set the rhost to the target IP, and show options again. Make sure we have our stuff set in there correctly. Scroll up a little bit, and there we go. It's in there. First, let's check the lhost option is set to ton 0 IP. With that done, let's set the last option to our target IP. Now that we have everything ready to go, use the command exploit. I'm using the target or the attack box, so I don't need to really do this. But if you're using the VPN, go ahead and configure those settings properly. Now we're going to move on to task number 4. Continuing on to task number 4, escalate. Enumerate the machine and find potential privilege escalation paths to gain admin powers. All right, let's go ahead and do that. And as you see, I already ran the exploit and it was successful. I got an interpreter session set up. If you are not familiar with interpreter, you can use the question mark to list out the various different commands, and be sure to do that if you're unfamiliar with Meterpreter so you can know which commands to use properly, etc., etc. But I've already done a few of these here, so I'm just going to scroll down to where I left off. All right. Woohoo, we've gained a foothold into our victim machine. What is the name of the shell? It's going to be Meterpreter. As you can see there, it's Meterpreter. What user was running what the Icecast process, and that is going to be this dark user right here. And you can get that information by using get UID. What build of Windows is the system? And you can get that information by using sysinfo, and that's going to be under the OS section here, and that's going to be build. It's going to be 7601. So answer that question. Now that we know some of the finer details of the system we're working with, let's start escalating our privileges. First, what is the architecture of the process we're running? That's going to be x64 architecture, x64. All right. Now that we know the architecture of the process, let's perform some further recon. While this doesn't work the best on x64 machines, let's now run the following command: run post multi recon local exploit suggester, suggester. This can appear to hang as it tests exploits and might take several minutes to complete, which I have already done. As you can see there, and it took a few minutes to get through everything. Went through, did its thing here, and it's going to give you various different options right there. Running the local exploit suggester will return quite a few results for potential escalation points. What is the full path, starting with exploit for the first return exploit? And that's going to be this event VWR one here, and that's the one we're going to use. Now that we have the exploit in mind for elevating our privileges, let's background the current session, which I have already done. You can use Control Z, or you can use BG for background. And then you're going to list out sessions for active sessions so you know which one you're going to target next. We're going to select that exploit from exploit suggester, which is going to be this one here, this exploit Windows local bypass underscore event VWR. And that's exactly what I did. I went to use, and then I'm using that particular exploit. And I did show options, make sure my options are set correctly. Session is missing, and I'm going to set that to 1 because that's the session I am targeting. And I did that. Set to 1, as you can see there, and then show options again. So there may be additional stuff you got to set in here, which will probably be lhost. My lhost was already set correctly, so I didn't have to worry about that. If it's not for you, be sure to select and correct that one for yourself. Went through and I ran it, and it was successful. As you can see there, was able to bypass the UAC. And then as you're going through in Interpreter, you're going to use the get privs to show what privileges that you have available or have currently. Enable process privileges. You're going to go through and it wants us to find out which one that allows us to take ownership of files, and that's going to be the set take ownership privilege down at the bottom here. Now let's continue on to task number 5. Task number 5, looting. So we're starting to get to a lot of good stuff here. We're going to go and find those golden goose eggs and such. Learn how to gather additional credentials and crack the saved hashes on the machine prior to further action. We're going to use PS to list out the process on the machine, and then we're going to find the one that's going to be listed as NT authority system. All right. And that's going to be one we can interact with the LSAS service, so we can dump those password creds. All right, so you're going to scroll down through here and find the correct process. It's going to be this spool.exe one, which is the print spooler service. All right, and that's going to be the answer to that one, and it's going to want us to migrate to it, and then you're going to use GUID to see what you're running as now. And I went ahead and did that. Migrate 1372, get GUID user ID, and I'm running as NT authority system, as you can see there, and it's going to want us to load up Kiwi, which you're going to use to dump the credentials on the machine. I already have it loaded up there, and the command we're going to run is going to be creds all to dump all the credentials on the machine. That's going to be the answer to that one. And you're going to find the password for this dark user, and it's going to give you that information, gives you the hashes and such for that particular user count, and it's got the password here in plain text. Bam. So let's go ahead and continue on to task number 6. Task number 6, explore post-exploitation actions we can take on Windows. All right, sounds very exciting. Let's get into it, guys. Answer the question below. Before we start our post-exploitation, let's revisit the help menu one last time in the interpreter shell. We'll answer the following questions using that menu. And of course, you're going to go through that menu and you're going to select the correct answer for these. What command allows us to dump all the password hashes stored in the system is going to be hash dump. All right, so you're gonna go in here and you're gonna find that particular command for that one, and then which ones allows us to watch the remote user's desktop in real time. It's gonna be screen share. So you're gonna go ahead and go through and find that one, which is here, and then record mic is gonna be the next one to listen to the microphone attached. All right, that's gonna be the one here, and then to complicate forensics efforts, we can modify timestamps off of files on the system. What command allows us to do that? Don't ever do this on the pen test unless you're explicitly allowed to do so. This is not beneficial to the defending team as they try to break down the events on the pen tester after the fact, and that's going to be timestamp. All right. And there's hashdump one there, and then there's timestamp right there. This also gives you the commands for Kiwi in case you're unfamiliar with Kiwi, which is, Mimikatz. So, and we did that creds all command earlier, which retrieves all credentials. All right, it's got different specific commands for whatever you want to do here. And it's going to ask us which one allows us to create a golden ticket, and that's going to be the golden ticket create command, which is listed here, create a golden Kerberos ticket. All right, one last thing to note, as we have the password for the dark, or for the user dark, we can authenticate to the machine. We're going to do that with RDP. All right, I already have that pulled up here. I'm going to go ahead and open up this right here, which is called Romania, I think. But anyway, you're going to use the information that we had retrieved earlier, dark for the username, the password we had for that, and then domain is going to be dark PC. So you're going to go ahead and click OK there to RDP into this machine, and there we go. Okay, extra credit. This is the manual exploitation stuff that we saw earlier. It says to learn more about alternative exploitation methods, check out the sequel to this room, Blaster, which we'll do next. Answer the following question. As you advance in your penetration testing skills, you will be faced eventually with exploitation without the use of Metasploit. Provided above is the link to one of the exploits found on ExploitDB. We're going to take a look at this one here. This one is in C, but I'm going to try to use the one that's in Python. Someone converted to Python, so let's go ahead and check that out. All right, I tried to use the Python version of the exploit for this, but for some reason it wasn't working. And now it's saying the port is closed for that particular target box. I even tried to terminate the machine, launch new machines, kept getting the same issue. So if you guys are able to exploit it, good on you. We're going to take a better look at the manual exploitation in this blaster room, I believe. So if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed the information shared, the content, the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, hit the like button. Comment below your thoughts and opinions. Are you running into the same issues? Have you experienced anything else in regards to this machine? Have you done manual exploitation before? And the good thing about learning how to do manual exploitation is that what if you're in an environment that you don't have access to these automated exploitation tools like Metasploit and such, you'll have to do some kind of manual exploitation to that target machine in order to gain access to it. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good day.